Okay, so let's say we're going to graph the cosine of 2x plus pi. So we should know what graph of a regular cosine looks like. If I draw a graph of a regular cosine, it should start off at 0. At 0 it would be at 1. At 2 pi, where it would end, a complete circle on the unit circle, it would be at 1. And between at pi, it would be down at -1. Crosses the x-axis at pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2. So those are my intercepts. That's where it crosses the x-axis. So I'll go ahead and draw that out. So that should be a regular cosine graph. And this time I don't have a regular cosine graph. I have stuff happening to it. So again, as we did with the sine, I want to factor out whatever's in front of my x so I can get a number in front of the parentheses. So x plus, and if I divide by 2, pi divided by 2 is just pi over 2. So what is happening to this is, well, not all that much. My amplitude didn't change because I don't have any sort of number there, so my amplitude is still 1. My period changed though. Period is usually 2 pi, but it's 2 pi divided by whatever I pull out because this affects the horizontal stretch or shrink. So divide by 2, so my period is just going to be pi. And this time it's going to shift. It's going to shift to the left, pi over 2. So a negative pi over 2. I'm going to subtract pi over 2 from everything. So let's try to redraw it with that. So I'm going to go ahead and change the period first. So if I change the period, basically I have the exact same graph. I'm just shrinking it by pi. So I'm dividing each part of this by 2. Shrinking it by 2 by a factor of 2 because that's what I put out. So I'm dividing each part of this by 2. So I'm going to have it end at pi. Instead of this being pi, I'm going to have divided by 2, have that be pi over 2. Divide this by 2, get pi over 4. And divide this by 2 and get pi over 4. This one would have been 3 pi over 4. Okay, so now I'm going to worry about the shift. So my shift, and I'm going to move the vertex over a little bit. So my amplitude stays the same. I can move this up. So my shift is by pi over 2. So instead of starting at 0, I'm going to start at negative pi over 2. Still going to go up to 1 because my amplitude did not change. Okay, so instead of going to pi over 4, I'll do pi over 4 minus pi over 2. It's going to go left that far. Get a common denominator. So I should get negative pi over 4. That's where it should hit my x-axis. Okay, so then instead of getting a -1 at pi over 2 minus pi over 2 would be 0. Say getting to the x-intercept again at 3 pi over 4, it'd be 3 pi over 4 minus pi over 2. So again, common denominator, pi over 4. And instead of getting back to 1 at pi minus pi over 2 would just be pi over 2. So my current cosine graph should look something like that.